Hello, I am Zanita Delva. I am the 2nd Judicial District Casa Program Manager or Executive Director of the 2nd Judicial Program in Lewiston, Idaho. I am going to be your moderator for this panel, and I would like to start out by thanking you all for participating in our Foster Care Awareness Day for 2021. This is an annual event where child welfare advocates from across the state of Idaho usually gather in Boise to provide state legislators with education and firsthand experiences related to foster care in Idaho. This year, in lieu of in-person, we are creating these wonderful Zoom videos to continue our mission of educating our legislators in the state of Idaho on the important mission of guardian ad litem volunteers. A special thank you to Idaho Voices for Children, KC Family Programs, and Family Advocates for championing this cause. So we're going to start out by an introduction of panel members. So if we could start out with Tyler, can you tell us who your organization that you're representing and how you work in the child protection system, please?
My name is Tyler Williams. I'm an attorney at Naylor and Hales in Boise, Idaho, and I am one of the pro bono attorneys in the 4th Judicial District CASA program.
Thank you, Tyler. And I'd also like to thank you for your time working with our families. Darcy, can you introduce yourself and tell us where you're from?
Yeah, my name is Darcy Anderson, and I am the 4th Judicial District CASA Program Director, and our judicial footprint is Ada, Boise, Elmore, and Valley counties. And I should also say that the 4th Judicial District Program falls under Family Advocates.
Thank you, Darcy. Next, we have Kylie. Can you introduce yourself, please, Kylie?
Hi, yes, I'm Kylie. I am a foster parent in Boise, Idaho.
Thank you, Kylie. And again, thank you so much for what you do for our children and families. Next, we have Pam on here. Pam, can you talk about your role and your organization and your place in the child protection system? Oh. And can you unmute yourself, Pam?
I apologize. My name is Pam Harris. I'm the Child Welfare Chief of Social Work in the 5th Judicial District. We cover 8 counties in the Magic Valley area.
Do they know how to do it? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Pam. And finally, we have Josh and Amanda. A little bit of Amanda. And they are biological parents. They are here from the Lewiston area, and they are here to talk about well, I guess I just introduced you. Go ahead and introduce yourselves, Josh and Amanda.
Okay, I'm Josh Campbell, and this is my wife,
Amanda Campbell, and we're so grateful to be here today to share our story and how we've been with CASA in the past, how they've helped us.
All right. Thank you so much, Josh and Amanda, for being here. We're so grateful for your input in here. So, okay, so we're going to move forward. The first thing that we want to do, Darcy's going to explain who and what is a GAL and what the difference is between a GAL and a CASA in Idaho.
Yeah, so we thought this was a great place to start since you're going to be hearing these acronyms throughout the course of this video. So in Idaho, the terms Court Appointed Special Advocate, or CASA, and Guardian Ad litem, which we refer to as GAL, are synonymous, meaning that they both mean a volunteer who is appointed by the courts to represent the best interests of a child or children in an active child protection case. And for those of you that really enjoy law terms and legalese and Latin, the ad litem part stands for the suit, and it is a term used in law to refer to the appointment by a court of one party to act in a lawsuit on behalf of another party, such as the child or an incapable adult. And the reason I bring this up is because it ties in really nicely to Casa's creation story. So Casa started in 1977 by a judge named Judge Soupcup in Seattle, Washington. And he was sitting on the bench, and a case came before him that included a 3-year-old child. And this case kept him up at night, and he just didn't know what to do and how to rule. And so one of the things he decided as he looked around the courtroom was that there was no one in that courtroom at that time to solely talk about the interest of the child and what was best for them. And so it was out of that realization that the CASA programs were formed across the nation and in Idaho. So in short, and to answer Zanita's initial question, a guardian ad litem is defined by the Idaho Child Protection Act as a person appointed by the court pursuant to a guardian ad litem program to act as a special advocate for a child.
Thank you, Darcy. That's a great explanation of what we do here. I might add that just as a side note that there are programs in all the states in the United States, and they all work differently. So that is specifically towards how Idaho works. So, okay, so we're going to dive right in here, and we're going to start talking to our panel about their experience and their beliefs in regards to CASA. So the first question that we have is, I would like each of you to describe your initial interactions with your guardian ad litem. Was it in the courtroom? Was it in your home? Was it in the Department of Health and Welfare? And what was your initial interaction? And so we're just going to start from counterclockwise here up on the top. And Tyler, can you explain what your first interaction with guardian ad litems was?
And are you interested in the initial ever, or just initial in any given case?
The initial effort. How did you become a pro bono attorney with CASA, and what were your thoughts on that? Like,
okay,
why are you doing this?
So the law firm I work at, Naylor and Hells, has been involved in the CASA program here for many years, probably a couple decades. I think one of the founding partners here used to be a prosecutor in the 80s and was in juvenile court then, and sort of carried it forward when he started this firm. So when I first got into it, it was more of an opportunity to get some court experience and to provide some pro bono services. I didn't really have any specific interest at the time in child protection. It sort of just evolved. And so my initial involvement was sort of a happenstance, I guess. Like I said, it just sort of came about. And that was about 8 years ago or so, I believe, about 2012, 2013, around there. So I've been doing it for a little while now, and have loved doing it and appreciate the opportunity to continue to do it.
Thank you. Can I ask you a quick question to go along with that? How
Yes.
much do you get paid for what you do?
I do not get paid to do this.
You volunteer your time.
It is volunteer time.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to skip you, Darcy, and we're going to go down to Kylie. Can you tell us what your first initial interactions with a CASA or guardian ad litem were, and how that went for you?
Yeah, my first initial interaction with the first case that we took, the first placement of a baby, the guardian ad litem came to our home. So that was our first interaction with the guardian ad litem, and she came, and just since the baby can't talk for herself, they just she told me, tell me everything you want to tell me, and it just gave her more direction on things to look into for the well-being of the child.
And how long have you been a foster parent, Kylie?
A little bit over a year.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, Pam, would you like to give us your experience with I don't know if you can remember back to when you first met your first Casa, maybe, or maybe just a general overview. I'm sure you've worked with lots of us.
Oh, I think that I've been in child welfare for over 20 years. And so during the time that I've been here, Casa has been an integral part of my practice. And I feel very lucky to have had the opportunity through a variety of positions within the department to develop positive working relationships with our Casa program. And at this point, for me in my own personal practice, Casa is absolutely critical to a well-rounded, holistic view of a case. Sometimes I think of a Casa worker as sort of a common sense person. So when I was doing case management, we'll be rolling them along, and of course we're following our laws and our regulations and all of the things that caseworkers need to be working within. And I've found Casa to always be a really good common sense, like, okay, well, I get that, but what about the bicycle? Or what about the sleepover with their friend who's been determined to be safe? How hard does that have to be? And so, yeah, my first interaction was way back when, and I've had the opportunity to meet many wonderful, wonderful Casa volunteers over the years. But I think that what I most appreciate about working with Casa is just kind of that they have the ability to have a more common sense approach. It's really focused on child's needs, which we all are, but sometimes in the forest of it all, maybe the smallest details that would make the most difference for a child and their experience in foster care is missed. And I find that Casa volunteers are the ones who really hold that information. So
Okay,
that's been my experience.
great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, and we're going to go to our parents who have graciously come in to talk about their story. So Josh and Amanda, can you tell us about when you first became aware of the Casa, your first interactions, and where did you meet your guardian ad litem?
Yeah, I met Zara coming out of the family planning part of getting the kids back, where you go over what will happen if you don't follow through with the program and everything like that. And that was the first time I got to talk to her and stuff. And she came up and was telling me, hey, I know this meeting's hard, but if you stay with it and, you know, you follow the program and you do the hard work, you can get your kids back. And, you know, at that time, a lot of parents, I was one of them, and, you know, weren't sure whether to trust the person and stuff like that. But I think back now, and I realized that she had our back all the way from the very beginning, just like I knew at the end she had our back. She really had our back from the very beginning, and even more important, so she was keeping an eye out for our children and stuff, you know, while we were getting the help that we needed to get our kids back.
And she was there for us not only to help us through it, but she actually made us realize that, hey, this is your last chance. You want your kids, this is what you need to do. And I had to really look at it as, what if you mess up and you don't get your kids? Who's going to take care of them? Like, you got to plan it. And that was hard. That was the realization that I needed. And she wasn't just there to kick us in the right direction, but she was there to help us get through the tough times, to relay messages for us. And what was really important was that she was the voices of our children. She was there when they couldn't be, and she was best interest for them, helping them get into the foster home, making sure they're comfortable, bringing them back home, you know. And it was just, we are very grateful to have met Zara and having her in our lives. And to this day, we still enjoy seeing her.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. So that brings me to our next bit of information. What Darcy's going to talk about is, so we have these volunteers that work with our children and our families, and they're not just everyday, well, they are everyday people. Of course, they're special. I believe that they're special superheroes in every sense, But we're going to talk specifically about what their quality duties are as a guardian ad litem. So Darcy, can you weigh in on that a little bit?
Sure. And I just want to thank Josh and Amanda for it just being so vulnerable and talking about their experience. And I love to hear how much the guardian ad litem in your case was an integral part of your lives and still is. So that's amazing. For everybody else to just better understand the roles of our guardian ad litems, who they are, what they do, that sort of thing. So our guardian ad litem volunteers really do come from all walks of life. They have a variety of professional, educational, and ethnical backgrounds. While no special education or experience is required, we are unable to accept all candidates as volunteers due to the rigorous program and the sensitive nature of working with children. So that being said, the process kind of looks like this. First thing, you have to be over the age of 21. There is an application that you have to complete, which includes the submission of 3 references of people that know you but that are not related to you. So we can kind of get an idea of who you are. Then passing an in-person or virtual interview. And then also passing the criminal history check, which is in accordance with Idaho Court Administrative Rule 47. It is a very comprehensive background check. And then once somebody has taken all of those steps, then they can start the guardian ad litem training. And if those first couple of steps weren't enough, our training is 30 hours and it covers all of the topics that are mandated by Juvenile Rule 35 and National Casa Association. Just to give you an idea, those are things such as child development, how the court system works, and how to write reports. So after somebody has completed the pre-service training, there is also an additional requirement to complete 12 hours of continuing education every year, and that education has to be on the topic of child welfare. And then we also do ask in Idaho for a commitment of either 1 or 2 years. It depends on the program. And that is just so the children in those cases have one consistent adult in their case for the life of their case. And right now, on average, our cases are about 14 months, and that varies across different counties in Idaho. The other important thing to know is guardian ad litems are parties to the case, and their duties are dictated by Idaho Code Section 161633. And I'm just gonna kind of in short run through that. The duties include gathering information. So that includes what brought the children into care, the history, their environment, their different relationships. Facilitation, which is identifying resources and services for the child specifically, but also helping out the family as needed. And then we have this huge advocacy piece. And you heard Amanda and Josh talk about that, is speaking up for the child through fact-based recommendations given to the court through the usage of a court report. And all of those recommendations are based on what is in the child's best interest. It's also important to note, we advocate for the whole child. So it does not matter of race, gender, religious beliefs, language, sexuality, social origin, anything like that. Our guardian ad litems are appointed to a case by the court, and we advocate for that whole child. And how we do that is we really get to know them. So it is mandated that we go to visit the children every 30 days and really understand what's going on in their life and who is critical to them, and just really get to know them well. Then we also monitor what's going on with the court orders and alert parties if something is not happening. The confidentiality piece is also really huge. for a guardian ad litem, because we realize that these families and these children have gone through a traumatic event. And we as community members do not need to be talking about this case. And so we are held to a very strict confidentiality code. It's also important to note that most of our guardians are carrying less than 3 cases, which means that they can really devote a lot of time and attention to the kids on their cases because they don't have astronomical caseloads. And so this is an integral piece to me, and how we are a little bit different from some of the other parties to the case is because we can spend that extra time really getting to know the kids.
Thank you, Darcy. That was a great explanation and duties of the CASA and the roles of the GAL. So next I would like to ask Pam, how are the duties of a Department of Health worker different from those of our ad litem?
Well, I think that the most striking difference would be that when CASA is appointed to a case, which is generally at the shelter care hearing in a child welfare case, so that's within 48 hours of those children becoming involved with our system legally, they immediately begin to conduct assessments in relation to the specific needs of the child to be able to contribute that to the processes moving forward. And so while a CASA worker is the voice of the child in court, a Department of Health and Welfare worker is assigned to work with the entire family. And so that's ongoing assessments, in-depth assessments of parents, assessments of the child's well-being, support for foster parents. It's a large array of responsibilities. And so I believe that as part of the team, as I kind of said before, it's all about the child and it's the voice of the child. So for example, the department may conduct a reassessment of safety to consider reunification and present that to the court. And so we're looking at, you know, where are the parents at with their corrective measures? What has mitigated safety issues in the home? And we may be at a point where we determine that those safety issues have been mitigated and we can recommend an extended home visit. However, we may have a CASA worker who is the voice of the child in court who is saying, for example, I don't feel safe yet. I don't want to go home yet. And so it would be the CASA that would put that forward for further consideration by both the department and the court. So I'm not sure if that answered your question. I think you're muted.
I said I didn't hit the button. So I think that's a great explanation and gives a good example. So thank you very much for that. So our next question is for Amanda and Josh and for Kylie, and we'll start with you, Kylie. Based on your interactions with the guardian ad litems, what do you think makes them unique and qualified are qualified to represent the children that you're caring for and in the families? Kylie?
Yeah, I think the really unique thing about the guardian ad litem is they have a low caseload. The one we have worked with has only 2 other cases than us, and she's a lot more available than our social worker, and we love the social worker, but we know that she carries usually between around 16 to 18 cases at a time, and so isn't as available. So if we have concerns or need some extra resources, our guardian ad litem has been a great resource for her because she is really good about picking up her phone and just getting back to us quickly. And I believe that she also went above and beyond in just doing different research and trying to get a whole picture due to the fact that we are licensed for 18 months and younger. These kiddos can't speak for themselves. And so the guardian ad litem's role is really key in the kids that we've had because they can't speak for themselves. And so we do our best to come up with just information we know or concerns we have. And she gets everybody's, let's see, name and phone number of like family members and people who can speak into this baby's life on like the background. And so she was able to do a lot of research that helped in making key decisions throughout the case for this child, because she was able to do a lot more research and devote more time that the social worker doesn't necessarily have because of their caseloads.
Great. Great. Well, thank you so much, Kylie. Josh and Amanda, can you give us your take on your interactions with your guardian ad litem and what made them unique in the case?
I would say that ours went, she went, well, she's in the room hearing it, so I'm very happy that she is. She went way out of the way. She helped us look for a house so we could have stable housing. I mean, she got landlord numbers and stuff like that. And she really, she really stayed on us. Plus she kind of helped explain the, because when your kids go into the foster care system, you're given a list of things that you need to do. And, and you're not sure what you start off doing, especially like with us, we're addicts in recovery now, but, we were still unfortunately using, so we had to, she kind of kicked us in the butt, to get us going, in a nice way, and even when we were sober, she was telling us, hey, you know what, if you're ever struggling, call us and I'll make sure you get to, someone you need to get, to, so that way you don't use again and everything like that. So, I mean, this person's the voice of the kids are children, but she's also the voice for families too, because really the best thing is for the kids to have the family straighten up, have the parents straighten up and go home and stuff. And that's what she did for us. I mean, she helped keep us on track and stuff. And really, I mean, checked in with, for me, she checked in, made sure that I was going to my classes and, doing everything I was supposed to do, to stay on track.
I have to agree, and I know that it's a traumatic experience when the kids are taken from their parents, and Casa steps in there and Zara gained the trust of our children and made them feel comfortable, helped them through things. It was like, she was like a big sister to our kids, and we're very grateful for it. And I believe that Casa is one of the best things that could happen for cases like these.
Thank you so much for that. So our next question is for Tyler. Tyler, can you tell us, in some states, guardian ad litems are attorneys. How is that different in Idaho?
So as Darcy mentioned, every state, or I think most states, if not all of them, have some sort of CASA program. And so they're all ran a little bit differently. They have different statutory schemes, different rules that apply. There's a handful of states, I don't know what the breakdown is, but there's some states that have utilized professional attorneys as guardians ad litem. Idaho is one of the states that uses a non-professional class, unpaid volunteers of community members who serve as guardians ad litem. And so the difference is there's a few differences, and it'll depend on the statutes and how they're drafted. But some of the main differences are that the role of the non-attorney guardian ad litem is a little bit different than an attorney ad litem or attorney guardian ad litem, where the community members that we use here in Idaho advocate for the best interests of the child. They're not there really to represent the legal interests of the children. And so there's that difference. They also, and I like this phrase that Pam used, that they bring this common sense element to the case. There's just a little bit different approach and perspective of a layperson community member as opposed to a professional attorney who's there getting paid to do this as their job. I could probably go on, but I don't know how much you want How about that? So that might suffice. I guess the short answer is we use unpaid volunteer community members in Idaho.
Okay, that suffices for now. I think we'll be able to go into that deeper too. So to learn more about how volunteer attorneys represent guardian ad litems in Idaho, we are going to have a video that we will be watching from Judge Ellis, and it's also part of the Foster Care Awareness Day. So is that going to be inserted, Darcy?
It's actually going to be an additional video that people can click on
Okay.
if they're registered for Foster Care Awareness Day. Yep, and it will talk
Okay.
about everything you want to know from the judge's perspective of guardian ad litems and their work in the courts.
Great. And if you've ever seen Judge Ellis's videos, they are very informative, and so you'll want to click on that link and watch that. Okay, so we are going to go back to our panel and ask some more questions. So I have, we'll go back to Josh and Amanda. I'm sorry, I love listening to them talk, sorry. In your experience, well, I love listening to everybody talk. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to diminish anybody's. But, in your experience, why are the guardian ad litems critical to the child welfare system?
Well, because I feel that the Department of Health and Welfare or the kids' attorneys, are professional, and you got parents coming in, talking to kids, as volunteers for Casa. A lot of volunteer members are parents, and so they're not going in with this is my job mentality. They're going in with, hey, I love children and I want the best for the children, so they're able to get down to the kids almost like a big brother, big sister, level and stuff. I remember Zara, pack of gum. If her kids did she gave them a stick of gum, a piece and stuff. And they always were like, oh, we did this, we did that. And she had the gum for them and stuff. So, that's something that that you're not going to get, because people that work for the state are just so busy. They're doing their best, they're doing their best they can, dealing with all of us and stuff. And they have to deal with the parents, the children, the foster homes and stuff like that. And this is just, I feel, takes some of that pressure off of the state, and lets the kids, feel like they have a buddy, almost like someone going through it with them,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one example is our oldest daughter was having a rough time adjusting in her foster home. And she reached out to Zara, and Zara reached out to our worker, who we had an awesome worker for a social worker. And it's just stuff like that. Like, the kids are able to talk to the Casa worker, and the Casa worker goes and advocates for the kids to the judge, to the attorneys, to the health and welfare. And like Pam was saying earlier, that the Casa worker can say, no, the kids aren't ready, it's not safe, but they can also say, no, the kids are ready, I've checked it out, look how the parents are doing, the kids want to see them more. And we also had our Casa worker do that for us too when we needed more visits. We were doing good, we were doing more than the minimum, the kids wanted to see us, and she was willing to be there for the visits, because I know that the department they're overworked, they have a lot of work to do, and sometimes there's just not, we experienced there wasn't all the visiting hours that we were supposed to get, so there needed to be other places, and that's where she stepped in.
Thank you. Kylie, can we get your input on that? So why do you think that the guardian ad litems are critical to the child welfare system?
I think it's mostly echoing things that everybody has stated, but I just think it's great for somebody that has a little bit more time, and it's just an everyday person. And like they said, it's typically a parent that has a heart to see what's best for the child. And at least in our experience, our guardian ad litem has always had everybody's concerns on her heart and mind too as she walks forward in all of this. She constantly checks in on the birth parents, and she checks in on us, and she makes sure that things get relayed back to the social worker, and we'll make sure that things are moving forward if they need to be moving forward, or if something is falling through the cracks, like visits or something like that. She has been a huge advocate just in making sure that the babies are being bonded with parents, and that we're not feeling overwhelmed or left out of the picture, and just has been a huge support. And I think there's so many like the common sense thing, but also that she comes in with her heart and her emotions behind the work that she's doing and the volunteer work that she's doing, that you don't always see in a social worker or somebody, who's just doing their job. She has a lot of heart and passion and emotion in it, and really does want what's best for kids.
Thank you, Kylie. Hey, Tyler, can you tell us why you believe, or first of all, do you believe, and why would you believe that CASAs are critical to the child welfare system?
Yes, I definitely believe that the CASAs, or the guardians ad litem, are critical to the child welfare system. I think that their role, their unique role as an independent investigator, monitoring the case, facilitating or helping to facilitate some of these services, keeping tabs on things, and most importantly, being an advocate for the best interest of the child. I don't think these things can be understated how important they are. Overall, I think that the guardian sort of keeps, it's not really checks and balances, but it does, in a way, it sort of is analogous to that, where the guardian serves as a very important check on what's going on and independently reviews everything and tells the court what's going on, and then advocates for the child. I think that can't be, that's very important. I don't know how these cases would develop and progress without that role of the guardian ad litem.
Thank you, Tyler. Pam?
I would echo and appreciate, on behalf of our CASA program in Region 5, all of the things that people have already said. I mean, I think that absolutely a CASA volunteer is critical to a child welfare case. They are able to do their own independent assessment. They're huge resources for the children. And if you think of all the pain and trauma that occurs in families when children are removed, and from the parents' perspective, absolutely. But then think of yourself as a child. And so to go to court, to talk to a provider, to express to your worker or even your foster parents sometimes what you really want, and not just try to say what you think everyone else wants to hear. I think that in that way, the CASA worker is most critical, because I feel like the system is set up so that a child understands that this is their safe person. This is their advocate in court. And if they're afraid to speak, or if they're not in court because they're at a track meet, or if they're too young, they still have a voice to communicate to the judge, which of course, everything falls on the judge in the end. And so in that respect, and in all the others that people have talked about, I do believe it's absolutely critical, and I have completely enjoyed having CASA as part of our team.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you so much. So with that being said, you get the overall view is that we are a volunteer-driven agency. And with that, I'd like to delve in a little bit deeper, and Darcy's going to help us with that. Darcy, can you tell us who provides oversight to the CASA programs, and how are the guardian ad litem's performances evaluated?
Sure. So Each CASA program in the state of Idaho is operated by an independent 501c3 nonprofit. And so that's the first level of oversight, right? So for there to be a guardian ad litem, first of all, there needs to be a CASA program. And luckily in Idaho, we have 7 of them. So, so there's lots to choose from. As far as additional oversight, National CASA Association asks that all of the programs in Idaho be a member. And the reason that that is so important is because they provide standards, policies, and procedures for the roles of our CASA volunteers. So basically the organization or nonprofit has these standards that each of our guardian ad litems have to meet. So that's the first level. But then the Idaho Supreme Court also does an audit of our programs every year to ensure that we are doing what we need to do and that we're meeting Idaho Code, juvenile rules, and ICAR 47 with regards to our criminal history checks. So there is a lot of oversight on these positions. And then with regards to performance evaluations, this is different per every program in Idaho. But what this usually looks like is some sort of discussion between the staff member and the guardian ad litem at the end of their case to say, hey, how do you think it went? We think that you're doing a great job, but is there something we could do better? Is there something you could do better? And so it's kind of just like any other job, right? Only it's volunteer based. And at the end of the day, our evaluations are to make sure that our guardians are following you know, all of their duties set forth by Idaho Code, and also bringing heart to this position, because it's one thing to follow everything, but it's another to really put your heart into this work and really want to advocate for the best interests of kids.
Thank you. So that kind of ends our questions for the panel. But we found that it would be interesting just to go over some general, did you know these things about CASA? And I think these are interesting because I myself, I mean, I've been with CASA for about 11 years. However, up until probably just a few years ago, when I would talk to people in our community, they always said, CASA, what is CASA? And so, but they have here in Lewiston, we have been working in our program since 1994. So it always surprises me that people don't know how long we've been working. So my question to the group, Tyler, do you know how long you're in 4th District?
Yes.
How long have they been in had a program there?
I think
you know?
they originally formed in 78, 79, got going in 80, and I think they took their first case in 82-ish. So 40, 42 years maybe. I don't know, Darcy, is that right?
Let's give Tyler a round of applause. Wow, he nailed that. So
I think
yeah.
I lost this question on a trivia night once. And I had to look it up.
Yep.
Josh and Amanda, have you ever heard of CASA before you actually became involved with us?
No, I haven't.
No, I haven't. In fact, I I grew up in California, and casa is a Spanish word for house, and I didn't know I didn't know what it meant, to be honest with you, but now I do first,
Yeah. So, and Kylie, you've been a foster parent, you said, for a little over a year. How long have you known of CASA?
I actually did hear about it a few years before I became a foster parent at like a mother's group that I went to. There was a speaker from the Region 4, I believe, in the Boise district that came and spoke at our mom's gathering, and they were trying to get people to step up and become guardian ad litems. And I couldn't at that stage in life, and then we skipped that and became foster parents instead.
Wonderful. And Pam, so you've been with the department for, do you say over 20 years?
Yes.
Had you heard about CASA before that?
I don't remember. I don't, honestly, I don't think so. But certainly they've been heavily involved in my entire career since that time.
Great.
Oh.
Yeah, wonderful. So just some statistics that I wanted to throw out there, and this is an interesting question. So Tyler, do you have any idea how many children were represented by a guardian ad litem last year?
You know, I think Darcy recently told me these numbers, and I don't remember it. I know it's a lot. I don't want to guess. It's a lot.
It is a lot. How about Josh and Amanda? Any idea how many children were served by all of the programs in Idaho last year by volunteer?
I don't know. I'll guess. I'll just make a guess. Probably about 20,000 kids instead.
In Idaho.
Am I way wrong? Way above?
Thank God you are. I mean, I'm
okay.
not
I didn't
to
know.
say that you are way above, but it's still a large number.
Okay, way Tyler was acting like I thought I was thinking maybe 3,000, but then he said a lot of kids, so I thought, well, way up.
Yeah. And Pam, you know how many we've served, so I'm going to ask Kylie. You have any idea how many we've served last year?
Let's see, August 4,000.
Okay, so my math is not so great, so I can't do this in my head, but let me break it down for you a little bit. So in District 1, they served 445 children. Here in District 2, we served right around 100 children. District 3, 321 children. District 4, 455 children. District 5, 218 children. District 6, 262 children. And District 7, 414. So a lot of children. So, yeah. And here's another great question. So how many guardian ad litems do you think we have in the state of Idaho last year? Any guesses? Just throw it out there if anybody has an idea.
I don't know.
Okay.
That's another number I know I've heard from Darcy, but I did not retain it.
Well, I would love to share this one with you. So, so last year, well, let's see, we have different numbers. Let me start by telling you this. Last year in District 1, the number of volunteers donated 8,110 hours of service. And so that's free hours of service that they gave. Here in our district, we gave over 2,500. In District 3, 5,358. District 4, Darcy, $14,000 or 14,000 hours and 931 hours. District 5, just over 2,300. District 6, about 5,000. And District 7, just right around 6,000. That's a lot of hours that were donated to these children given. In District 4, I'd like to add that the attorneys that pro bonos that gave their hours, it was 3,115 hours. That's just amazing and wonderful. District 6 and 7, they also use pro bono attorneys, and District 6 had 661 hours donated, and District 7 had 3,120 hours donated by attorneys. So that is just amazing that people are just willing to give that much time to our programs and our children. So, yeah.
And Zanita,
oh yeah, go ahead.
I did some calculations too,
Okay.
to just further expand on that. And so if you add the total hours that our guardian ad litem volunteers donated last year, which was 44,273, plus the number that our pro bono attorneys donated last year, which is 6,896. It gives us a huge total of hours, but more importantly, it means that we actually, by having volunteers do this work, we saved the state of Idaho $2.8 million in child welfare.
that was going to be my next question. So I'm assuming you used a calculator, Darcy, but I have a question for Tyler. I'm not sure if you can, well, you probably can. On average, let's say somebody walked into your office and they wanted to hire you to provide them services in a child protection case. About how much an hour would a practicing attorney charge for that?
In Boise, if I were to be paid for that, it would probably be between 200 and 250 an hour.
So Darcy, is that the number that you use times the hours that were provided?
Yeah, so how I figured this total number out, so let's start with the pro bono attorneys, since that's what we're talking about. So yeah, we use a calculation that is given to us through the value of volunteer. It's the independent sector. And so they give us the price that our pro bono attorneys, for each hour that they spend, the cost in association with that is $250. So I times 250 by 6,896 and got a total of 1.7 million. And then I did something similar with the volunteer attorneys, or excuse me, the volunteer guardian ad litems. So just to go over that number again, they donated a total of 44,000 hours. And the independent sector says that professional volunteers or volunteers that have a lot of education, which is what our guardian ad litems fit into in Idaho, their cost per hour is $25.43. So I took the 44,000 times 25.43 and got 1.1 million. So that's how we got to this overall cost of 2.8 million.
And Darcy, I would add to that that assumes that those hours reported are totally accurate. I would assume or expect that it's actually much higher hours, that people are underreporting their volunteer time.
Yeah, so here's the funny thing about guardian ad litems. They love what they do so much, but they hate reporting the hours that they're doing. And so you're right, Tyler. Both of our attorneys and our guardian ad litems underreport. And so this is a low ball. I'll put it there. Like, this is the lowest estimate that I can get to.
That's wonderful. And that's amazing. And I would just like to put it out there that I believe strongly, wholeheartedly in the CASA programs in the state of Idaho. And hopefully with this information that has been shared, everyone else will see that too. And we definitely have a cost-effective programs that work for the citizens of Idaho, especially the children. So I would like to thank each one of you profusely for your time in doing this and educating our community and our legislators and everyone involved in child protection and not those not involved on what CASA programs do, how they serve the families involved in child protection, and just how important they are for our communities. I would like to thank you, Tyler, so much from the bottom of my heart for being here and for all the time spent towards bettering our communities. And Kylie, oh my gosh, a foster parent. Yeah, there's not enough thanks for what you do, but thank you for loving our kids and taking care of them. And Pam, 20 years, wow. The number of families you must have reached and touched, and thank you for that. And Josh and Amanda, thank you for being such an excellent example of how far parents can come and the strides that you can make. And I would, if I can add just one more tad bit of information there, I would love for Josh and Amanda to give us just a quick, do we have enough time for this, that they can give a quick overall story of kind of where they started. They don't need to tell us what happened, but basically their kids came into care. And can you tell us what you've done since then? I think that's really important to why we're all here and where your kids are right now. I mean, not where they're physically at, but how they're doing.
So it's been about 3 years. Josh and I have been sober. We've went through treatment. The kids, we got the kids back in a year. Right now where they're at is our oldest daughter and our youngest daughter are doing homeschool online. Our youngest child is not in school yet, and we have one in Whitman. They're excelling. They're straight A students. We got our second oldest daughter, she's in choir. I'm going to college. I'm finishing my second year of college. I'm going to go into psychology. Josh he's been diagnosed with Parkinson's, but he's a stay-at-home dad. He is basically the teacher for the kids, and we work together. Him and our oldest are little walking buddies, exercising. Josh and I actually have had the best relationship we've ever had. We are able to talk to each other, and we can reach out for help. We know that's what we need. When, we, instead of letting the problems grow, you got to nip them in the bud. And we are so grateful for people like Kylie, the foster parents. Foster parents are so needed. And we're so grateful for a chance to meet all of you and to share our story. And
people like Pam at Department of Health and Welfare that are overwork and don't get appreciated as much as they should be getting, and then Darcy and all you guys and stuff. We're very thankful for all of you guys and stuff.
I understand you guys are, when I first tried to reach out to you to get in touch with you, you guys were busy. And I understand you were doing some work within a peer group that you also volunteer your time in. Can you talk a little bit about that? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, you were helping out with Shelby. Let's cut out that name. We're helping out with Shelby, our a fellow person going through rehab and everything like that,
Oh yeah.
We'll cut that name out.
That we went to group with that still reach out to us, and I just try to give them the best advice and do what people like you have done for us. Point out our strengths, find them, be positive, help us get through life, and know that times are tough, but you don't have to use or get mad or give up. We wouldn't be the people we are today if we didn't have gone through what we've went through. And we wouldn't have got to meet people like you and Zara, and we had the best social worker ever for our case. He was awesome. We do things like that. Before COVID, Josh and I were volunteering in our daughter's class. Yeah, he was doing boxing. Just yesterday when we were changing our tire together on the car. And it's just the little things that we appreciate, like watching our kids grow up in our home, and them not wanting us to move because, that's the home that we all were reunited in. And it's just awesome to be able to have a healthy life with our kids and get to share our story.
And thank you so much for sharing your story. We so appreciate it. So with that, would anyone else like to share some parting words and some words of wisdom? Tyler? Sorry, put you on the spot there.
Well, I appreciate those comments from Josh and Amanda. I think that reflects how important these services are. I think everyone needs to remember that these are things that are community problems that we are all invested in, and we all need to do everything we can to help resolve these things.
Thank you, Tyler. Kylie, would you like to leave us with some parting words of wisdom?
I'm just super thankful for all that the Guardian Ad Litem's CASA workers, volunteers do. It makes being a foster parent a lot easier too, and just brings more advocacy and connection to the child and their place in the courtroom and all the things that happen. That I just feel like it brings a lot of stability to the case.
Thank you, Kylie. Pam, do you have any words of wisdom for us?
Well, I'm kind of glad I got to go last. I guess what I would say is there's an increased awareness in communities in relation to problems in our communities around substance abuse and mental health and lack of resources. They've even come more to the forefront, I believe, with the pandemic. And a lot of people are looking for ways to help children and families in their community. And I guess I would just really encourage people that are looking for that to contact their CASA offices and to learn more about how to become a volunteer. I know that at least here, our CASA office is constantly advertising and recruiting, and so that they can have, the goal of course is to have a volunteer, I believe, for each child's case. There's not always enough volunteers to do that. And so I guess what I would do is I would just encourage people to consider that as a very effective and fulfilling, I think, way to help.
Thank you so much, Pam. Darcy, any words of wisdom to leave us with?
I think words of wisdom. You are all just amazing humans. So what do I add to this? That it only takes a minute to change a child's story. And so just always presenting yourself with humility, grace, compassion, I think is really important. And of course, if somebody wants to share their time and treasure with a Guardian Ad Litem program or CASA program in Idaho, we would love to have you support us. I'm going to do a shameless plug to go to familyadvocates.org or idahocasa.org/organizations. There you can find a full list of all the CASA programs across the state of Idaho. But yeah, you're also such beautiful speakers. I have nothing to add to that. So except for thank you, and thank you for letting us be a part of this whole panel.
Yes. Thank you all. It was such a joy to talk with you and hear what your parts in all of this. And I thank you all for everything that you've done. And now we have Judge Ellis, who will be speaking.
My name is Andrew Ellis, and I am a magistrate judge in Ada County. In my primary docket are child protection cases. I've been asked to do a presentation here today on behalf of the Idaho State Bar Child Protective Section, as well as my good friends at the CASA program, to discuss the critical role of the Guardian Ad Litems in Child Protective Act cases, discuss the importance of having those Guardian Ad Litems represented by volunteer attorneys or other attorneys employed by the county for that purpose, and finally to discuss with you the recent emergence of the Idaho State Bar Child Protection Section, which was created to support attorneys and professionals in the child protective system. Child protection has been a passion of mine, and some may say it's kind of the family business. I have been on the bench now for 7 years doing almost exclusively child protection cases. Prior to that, I was employed at the Ada County Prosecutor's Office, where for 11 years I did exclusively child protective cases. My wife is an attorney and a master's level social worker who has worked both in the legal field, legal side of child protective cases representing parents, but also employed by the Department of Health and Welfare in their Children and Family Services Division. My wife and I were foster parents way back in 2007 to two young ladies for a period of about 8 to 9 months who reunified with their parents. And not through the child welfare system, but my wife and I created our family through private adoption of some amazing and wonderful kids through the Idaho Youth Ranch. So the first area that I wanted to discuss was the critical role of the guardian ad litem in child protection cases. Whenever a child is removed into foster care in Idaho, if they are age 11 or younger, they are appointed a guardian ad litem by the court to serve as an advocate for that child's best interest. What's important, I think, for folks to understand is that Child Protective Act cases, they are governed by laws and statutes, but primarily they are cases about information. Federal and state laws have empowered the courts and given them the authorities over the last 3 to 4 decades to monitor these cases and to make decision points for these families and children along the way at certain specified hearings. And for the court to do that, the court has to know what is happening, has to understand or have a full picture of what is going on. Remember, a court cannot be an investigative body on its own. I don't have the authority to call up the parties to a case and ask them what is happening. I don't have the ability to contact the parents and check in on how they're doing. I don't have the ability to go to the child's home and see how the child is getting along in the foster home. I don't have the ability to call up doctors and counselors and therapists to see what is happening with this family. I have to rely in a child protective case on the information supplied to me by the parties. Fortunately for the courts, the Department of Health and Welfare employs a large staff of highly trained social workers whose job it is to assist these families, but also to prepare reports for the court for the various hearings. We also have the parents themselves who can come in with the assistance of their attorneys and share with the court how they are doing. But both the Department of Health and Welfare and the guardian ad litem have their particular spin on what is happening. The Department of Health and Welfare has all of these obligations under the law, and when they present reports to the court, they are obviously highlighting the areas where they are being successful and the things that they are doing to assist parents. Parents themselves want to put themselves in the best light possible, so they are sharing with me the highlights, the things that they believe they're doing well. So it is very, very important to have another voice, an independent third party who has no allegiance to the department, no allegiance to the parents, whose only allegiance is to what is in the best interest of the child, to go out and get information about how this family and how these children are doing. And they do that by talking to the doctors and talking to the counselors and talking to the teachers and the daycare providers and the foster parents and the children themselves. They have an obligation to see the children at least once a month. And then they take all of this information and they put it into reports, which are then are given then to the court for us to read in advance of all of the various hearings. And I cannot tell you how critical it is to have the information that comes from the department and from the parents and from the guardian ad litem. More information is infinitely better than less information. The court is called upon in a Child Protective Act case to make really profound decisions on behalf of children in their families. Decisions such as, is it time for the children to return home to their parents, or is it not time for them to return home? And perhaps the most devastating and profound decision of all is that after a period of 12 months or 15 months of working with a family, is it no longer necessary to work reunification, and do we need to move this case toward termination of parental rights and subsequent adoption, ending the relationship between parent and child? And I hope that you all would agree with me that in making these kind of amazingly profound decisions, having more information is a whole lot better than having less. And that's where having all of these different voices informing the court are so critical, and none more so critical than the guardian ad litem. Another source of important information that comes into the court during the course of hearings comes not from the parents, and not from the department, not from the guardians, but rather from two other participants that I haven't mentioned yet, and that are the foster parents who have these children in their care and the children themselves. There is an Idaho juvenile rule, Rule 40 to be precise, that states that all foster parents and all children over the age of 8 have a right to be notified of every hearing that occurs in a Child Protective Act case and have right to be heard at that hearing. So foster parents and children over the 8 are getting notices to say there's an upcoming hearing in your case, and they do have a right then to have their voices heard. Doesn't necessarily mean that the foster parents and the children have a right to appear at every hearing and to sit through the entirety of those hearings, but they do have a right to be present initially or to have some way of getting the court made aware of the foster parent's information and the child's wishes. And this is another area that it is critical to have a guardian ad litem and a guardian ad litem attorney to assist the children. It can be rather confusing to know what's going to happen, and guardians play an important role along with the Department of Health and Welfare in explaining to the children what's going to happen in the hearing, what the child can expect, what the child can say or not say, what the child can do or not do. And that goes a long way to alleviating the child's concerns and anxiety about appearing in court if that's what's happening. Guardian ad litems are volunteers drawn from our community who have a desire to help children who are in dire circumstances. They are not attorneys. This is a legal process. We have a series of hearings in which laws are applied and rules for these hearings apply. We don't expect a volunteer guardian ad litem to understand the intricacies, the ins and outs of a legal process, and therefore it is critical and it is required under the law that each guardian ad litem have an attorney to represent them, to help them navigate the process. But it is critical that we have an attorney so that the guardian ad litem's voice is fully heard. No good to have a guardian ad litem who's learned all of this information if they can't figure out the court process to make sure that all of that information gets to the court. Depending on the judicial district, it depends on how we appoint an attorney to represent guardian ad litems. In the 4th, 6th, and 7th district, the system relies upon volunteer guardian ad litem attorneys, meaning attorneys from the community who similarly, as to guardian ad litems, have a desire to help out children in dire circumstances, and they volunteer their time by serving as pro bono attorneys. And in 2019, the court systems of Idaho were fortunate enough to have 200 volunteer attorneys from around the state serve in this capacity. And these come from all walks of the legal field. We have attorneys from a broad and diverse practice of law coming to serve as pro bono attorneys. In the remaining districts that I did not mention, the county commissioners have seen fit to use their budget resources to hire a private attorney to serve as the guardian ad litem's attorney. A common concern among attorneys who are interested in volunteering to serve as pro bono attorneys for guardian ad litems is how do they get trained? How do they learn how to do this area of law? Partially in response to that, and also in response to there being an active number of prosecutors and public defenders and other private attorneys who work in this area of law, there was a movement to create several years ago a new section of the Idaho State Bar, a child protection section. And in September of 2018, the papers were filed to create a new section. For a new section to be recognized by the Idaho State Bar, it has to have 50 members who have signed up and paid their dues. And often, for a new section to get launched, it may take a year or two for that section to reach that 50-member milestone. And the Idaho State Bar Child Protection Section met that milestone within 2 months. The section is also open to non-attorneys who work in the field or have an interest in the field, such as guardian ad litems, members and directors of Casa programs, and law students. The Child Protection Section meets 10 times a year and provides ongoing, continuing legal education credits to its members. The section is governed by a governing council of 8 attorneys and judges who are responsible for identifying the legal trends and the areas in need of further legal education, and recruiting knowledgeable presenters to do these CLEs so that the members can stay current on the ever-evolving and changing law in this area. I like to say that child protection isn't necessarily rocket science. It's a very small and narrow little niche of law, but that is constantly changing and evolving, largely due to the number of federal laws that are passed periodically by the folks out in Washington, D.C., and the corresponding laws that are then passed here in Idaho. And so it is an area that is evolving, and there are nuances, and that it is important for those who are working in the field to stay current so that they can do their best to represent their clients and to make sure that we are working together to get children home to their parents or to another permanent solution as quickly as possible. So I want to conclude today's discussion with all of you by making really three pitches. The first is to members of the community who might be watching this, who are not attorneys, to encourage you, if you have an inkling, to volunteer to serve as a guardian ad litem in this process. To do so, you need to contact your local court-appointed special advocates program. We shorthand that as the Casa program. And all of them will have an intake person, a volunteer coordinator who will be delighted to hear from you and will get you started on your path toward the required 30 hours of education, the necessary background checks, and then get you started in this process of helping children out through the Child Protective Act process. Second pitch is to any attorneys out there in the 4th, 6th, or 7th district who might be watching this, who have had a thought in the past that it would be fun to do some pro bono service on behalf of children. Again, I can't think of a better way to do that than volunteering to assist guardian ad litems and representing them in these cases. Again, if you have an interest in that, you should contact your local Casa program. They will be delighted and eager to hear from you, and they will quickly connect you to whatever needs to happen for you to start that process. And finally, the pitch as a board member and proud participant in the Idaho State Bar Child Protection System, I'd urge any attorneys working in the child protective system or any professionals working in the system, such as Casa staff, guardian ad litems, law students who have an interest in joining this section and being able to participate in the education that is presented by that. Benefit of that section really are the members themselves and the expertise that they collectively bring. It's an opportunity for folks to connect to each other, to share what does and doesn't work, to stay current on what the law is, but mostly to provide a support in this niche area of the law. I want to thank all of you for watching this presentation, and most of all, I want to thank you for your interest and desire and commitment to doing what is necessary in this state to keep children safe. Thank you.